can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat.
ESBR Boxing, we are back. We're in proud association, as always, with sharpbetting.co.uk, your home for betting tips and analysis. Please do check those guys out. But we are here, obviously, from the boxing wing. They do, obviously, boxing, boxball, all the load of other host of other sports. But we are here to provide boxing insight, aren't we, Paul? And we are here to preview the fight that is taking place T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. A man who needs no introduction, Naoya Inoue, against Ramon Cardenas, Razor Ramon Cardenas. But obviously for the belts, obviously down in the super bantamweight divisions. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining me. I suppose just want to get your initial thoughts on this one, really. Your initial thoughts that will include a prediction, and then we'll unpick it a little bit further. Maybe talk about the landscape through the divisions as well, and how you think Inoue would fare. But yeah, initial thoughts and predictions, Paul. Please take it away.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Looking forward to this one. A jam-packed weekend from Friday to Sunday, with the Times Square card on Friday. Then you've got the Canelo card on Saturday, and then this as well on Sunday. Unbelievable, unbelievable. I'll keep this rather short and sweet. Naoya Inoue is going to move to 30-0. He's going to record a 27th knockout, and it'll be in the first half of the fight. That's where I see this going. I think Cardenas on paper is a good name, I suppose, but tailor made for Naoya Inoue. I think he'll do the same thing as he has done recently, where he downloads the data, so to speak, doesn't really throw a lot for a round two or three, and then just starts to beat his opponent up. And I see him doing that with Cardenas. I'll go round five. Now we a stoppage, mate. That's the way I see this. Kind of showcasing his talents to America.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. As a seasoned professional journalist like yourself has done, you've stolen the show with the final line there, and that is very much true. It's very much an announcement, I suppose, for him to to the American audience. Come over here for sports in Japan, obviously, most of his career and all his career, and then comes over here to sort of announce himself with a victory over Cardenas. So I actually totally agree with you, Paul. I think don't see it being that competitive. You look at sort of Cardenas's CV, and you sit there going, there's just nothing that prepares him for Inoue here. So I totally agree with you as well. It's going to be a stoppage. And you obviously went early, and I think I could see somewhere sort of around five for me. I think you're right in the sense, watching sort of Inoue recently does tend to sort of take a round or two of just kind of like not throwing necessarily a great amount, sort of fainting and moving, but not really throwing too much, kind of downloading and then exploding kind of in sort of around sort of 3, 4, 5. So I think, yeah, sort of around 3, 4, 5. But five for me is what I'm going to choose for the Inoue stoppage. We were in agreement there, absolutely. But let's pick up on Inoue, because obviously you mentioned, this announcement to the audience. Not that they really need it, I suppose, with global telecommunications as it is these days. But obviously the recent opponents that he's had, Yu Jun Kim, TJ Dehenny, Neri Tapales. I don't mind Tapales in fair, but obviously focusing from there, Fulton, a good fight, and then a Paul Butler, obviously, before that. Where's your take on Inoue, really? Are you kind of frustrated with the sort of matchmaking that's gone on with Inoue? Are you kind of losing a bit of interest with Naoya Inoue, given the sort of opponents he's fought? Do you think there's a bit of a waste of camp, a waste of the potential fights we could have seen? Or are you thinking, get Cardenas over in New York, let's get the train on, let's make some big fights, I'm kind of all for it? Where's your thoughts at, really, with the perception of Naoya Inoue at the moment?
Yeah, there's kind of two ways I look at it. One being no, I'm not bored. I'm not losing interest because I couldn't care less who I was fighting. I'd probably want to watch just because he's that much of a superstar. But then the caveat that yes, I understand that. Like when you look at his last few opponents, really from TJ Dehaney onwards, I suppose, or even before, maybe if you go back as far as uh Neri. Well, Neri obviously dropped him, but since Neri after that, the three that have followed, yeah, kind of losing a bit of interest. But I don't think that's any fault of Inoue. I think genuinely Inoue would fight anybody. I do believe that. Um, I would have liked to see the Akhmadaliev fight. Will that happen next? Who knows? I think will with the move to featherweight will come, but maybe in 2026 rather than 2025. So no, I'm not losing interest, provided that after this we get back on. Like he fights the MJ Akhmadalievs of this world. He maybe then moves up the featherweight, challenges for world honors there, fights the likes of a Nick Ball, uh, Fulton, who's a WBC champion up at featherweight now, who he's obviously beaten before. So there's a narrative there for Inoue to move up the featherweight. And provided that he gets through Cardenas and then fights someone like Akhmadaliev, as I've mentioned a few times now, or something like that next, or moves up to featherweight. No, I haven't lost interest yet, mate. What about yourself?
You know, I think, Paul, you're very polite there. I mean, I'm going to come out and say, I am actually losing a bit of interest. You've got the likes of, I am, Paul, like you get to like a Saturday night, there's loads of other things. There's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's YouTube Premium. Shout out to the YouTube boys. They want to offer us any sort of sponsorship. So I think all these things you can be sort of watching and doing and engaging. You almost need to be pulled in direction from. I'm going to go, this is a main event I want to be involved with, frankly. And I look at the last couple, and including this fight, actually. I look at this fight, I look at Eugene Kim, I look at TJ Doheny, Neary wasn't a bad fight, well ranked fighter to be perfectly honest with you. So I look at that and go, that's fair matchmaking. It's parlays to a degree as well. Paul Butler, don't know what that was about. In there in the change room afterwards, smiling away, saying they said round one, all that sort of nonsense. Not keen for that. So for me, I feel like he started off so well, such momentum was gained, obviously WBSS and all that sort of stuff, that you're sitting there going, actually, want to I suppose it's hard to sustain that. But I look at the last couple, I just think, come on now. Like we either need a move up to featherweight, like you say, which I think is what we do need. I don't think the opposition's really there to challenge him. We've kind of blown it out of the way and down that division as well. But I think maybe whether there's sort of a sense of we don't want to move up, we want to give his body time to prepare for that, maybe. Maybe there's an element of that to it as well. I don't know. But I feel like he needs, after this, we need to get on the train, Paul. We need to get on the train to featherweight. We need to move into some big fights. That's what we need, frankly, because, we're seeing with Riddia season as well and Riddia cards, like you're making fights, super fights are happening and you want super fighters in them. And he needs to sort of get involved, as far as I'm concerned. To be perfectly honest with you, he needs to get involved in those big fights. But let's take a little bit. You've shoehorned in, Nick Ball into the video. Paul, you're a massive Nick Ball fan, obviously. But we're talking about obviously move up to featherweight. And I'm just saying, if Inoue does move up to featherweight, look at some of those names. Obviously, you mentioned Nick Ball, but Espinoza, Angelo Aldo, Stephen Fulton, obviously, he's fought obviously already, but since moved up as well, so it might be more of a comfortable weight for him up there. How do you see Inoue adapting to that weight? Do you see him winning a belt up there? Do you see him challenging or beating those sort of names as well? How do you see it going for him, Paul?
Yeah, just quickly, mate. Espinosa's too big. He's huge. I don't know how he makes featherweight. That that would be. I don't see him beating Espinosa just from pure size, not on skill, just on pure size. I just cannot see that happening. Um, the other three champions, and like as much as I love Nick Ball, I think Inoue beats them all. To be honest, he's already beaten Fulton, and it's only another 4 point rise. Yeah, Fulton looked good against Figueroa, but I think he's already beaten Fulton, so he could beat him again. Angelo Leo, yeah, looked good against, as you said, against our old favorite Luis Alberto Lopez. Looked good, stopped him emphatically, but I'm going to see kettle of fish. And yeah, the Nick Ball one as well. As I've said, I do really like Nick Ball. I'm a massive advocate of it. And probably if the fight did get made, I'd probably just say that Ball would beat him just because I love him. I get closer to the fight, I would get into it. But if I'm being 100% serious and non-biased right now, I think I knew he would beat Ball because I do think Ball can sometimes be a little too easy to hit. So I'd back him to beat three of the champions there, mate, bar Espinosa because he's just too big.
Let me ask you just quickly to pick on that. Which, if you're the matchmakers, if you're in his management, which champion were you targeting? Obviously, Espinosa aside, because obviously you think you lose that fight. But out of those other champions, which one do you think is the easiest route for him to win a world title?
You're going Fulton again, aren't you? Because you've already beat him. So like you
Hmm.
can beat him. Fulton knows, oh shit,
Yeah,
I got knocked out by this guy. Do you know what I mean? That's
yeah,
probably in the back of his mind.
yeah.
And yeah, it's up another weight, and Fulton's maybe better at featherweight, but ultimately it's only 4 pounds, and I think Inoue would do the same. So on paper, I think Fulton and just with the whole mentality of that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with everything you said there. I think I'd have him beating Fulton again. Obviously, stopped him, like you say, 4 pounds isn't a huge difference. So stop him again, I think, to be honest with you. I think Espinosa is too big. I'd have him back beating also Nick Ball and Angelo Aldo. But the one fight I'd want to see actually would be the Nick Ball fight. I think that'd be sort of violence while it lasted. Maybe you could go the distance, to be honest with you, but I think that'd be a hell of a fight. But I do have Inoue's favourite there. So Paul, we are aligned actually on our predictions for this fight, on our predictions for maybe for the featherweight scene afterwards. So guys, let us know in the comments really what you think about this one, where you want to see sort of Inoue go next, really, how you're sort of, feeling, thinking towards Inoue, given the sort of plethora of other entertainment within boxing and outside of entertainment. Outside of boxing seems to be, sort of captivating everyone's attention. Check out the guys at sharpbetting.co.uk for sharp betting tips and analysis. And also check out the rest of our content as well. Your boxing needs under one roof, previews, reviews, big fight breakdowns, all that stuff. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll be here soon to say for future preview needs of boxing preview needs. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Cheers, mate. All the best.